Hey there. Wanted to share some thoughts. I've been writing through a blog for a number of years now. Not super frequent or regular, but I have been a very regular journaler. And for those of you that follow me or are friends with me, know I'm a voracious reader as well. But I wanted to share some things with you. So recently went on an adventure of a trip. I took my I have 5 kids. I married with 5 kids, and the 7 of us went on a 3 week trip to Europe, and wanted to share. I made a commitment as I was on the flight over to Europe that I was going to try and write or journal, sort of document every day. And I wasn't sure what exactly I was going to get out of that, but what I quickly realized is I was trying to find some life lesson or learning for that day. And sometimes I was, after a 12, 14-hour day running pretty hard, um, found that it was midnight. I think one was like 1:30 in the morning. And so I wanted to share here with you probably the most impactful findings or learnings from this trip that are life lessons, and hopefully you'll see some value in some of the things um, that I'll share. And so I'm kind of going to break down and give some specifics to the examples. But the first lesson is no matter what it is, it's not near as hard as we build it up in our minds to be. And the experience that I had was I'd never been to London before, never driven on the right or the left side of the road or on the right side of the car. So very, very, in my mind. So I was renting a car, driving out of London, and I was going to be driving on the wrong side of the road, on the wrong side of the car, in a manual car, which I drove a stick shift, growing up through my high school years, and then, you know, into my early married years, I had a stick shift, and so that wasn't super. But the point I'm trying to make, the lesson I learned was, and I'm embarrassed to admit, but this is really what happened. I was tired the night before, and I was really nervous. I was nervous because I just felt like there was a lot of unknowns. That traffic was the roads were crazy, and just this idea of driving on the wrong side of the road. So I built up in my head. I was overwhelmed just with the unknown of what it was going to be. And the more I thought about it, and I don't know if you're like me, but when you're trying to sleep and it seems like everything's the worst in the middle of the night, your mind has a hard time shutting off. And it just started to compound. And I mean, it got to the point where I got a migraine headache, and actually ended up throwing up. Admittedly, embarrassedly, it was like overwhelming, and I got very, very little sleep that night. And to accelerate to the life learning is it's never as hard as we make it up in our minds. I get in that car, I get driving, I'm terrified the first 30 minutes. And then I was like, it's no big deal. And I swear I could give dozens of examples throughout my life where I've overthought, and it's all been in my head. Whether that's giving a specific presentation or going into a specific meeting or whatever it is, attacking a specific challenge, and whatever that is, it's so much greater in our minds. And I mean, to the extent it's possible to just go, just act, just live, and not let that build up in your mind, because you almost have to tell yourself and coach yourself it's not going to be that big, that hard. It's not going to be that difficult, whatever that is. So that was my lesson number one. Lesson number two: smile and be friendly. And here's the lesson here. So now fast forward, and I'm going to bounce around throughout the trip, but um, we're in Paris, and we try to give our kids like a really real life experience. So we're first day down in the subway. I don't know where I'm going. I've never been to the city before. I'm a little stressed, probably overly stressed like I was with the car situation, but I didn't know exactly where to go, and I'm trying to buy tickets in the just in the kiosk, to, and something wasn't working. And now I don't even remember the specifics, but here's what happened. I There was an attendant lady, and I just jumped in. I'm like, I need this. And she said, hello, good morning. And I'm like, you're right. Like it literally was like, stop, smile. And I said, I'm so sorry. Hello, good morning. Here's my situation. Can you help me? Instead of blah, blah, blah. It was just like, no matter what the circumstances, it's so much more effective to just smile and be friendly. That's lesson number 2. Lesson number 3. I've talked a lot about clarity breaks. And I would say probably in the last 5 years, I maybe have missed 3 or 4 clarity breaks in this entire time. And sure, depending on kind of where I am and what's happening, they might look and feel a little bit different. But I've been doing this journaling, but I was on a train and I'm like, look, it's been a week and a half. I need and to just this idea of clarity break, and I threw on some classical music, and I just started just writing and dumping, and it was just so therapeutic. And so my I guess my wisdom or learning is like clarity breaks are as therapeutic as going to a therapist. No, I've gone to a therapist. I see value in going to a therapist, but clarity breaks are, in my opinion, imperative to overall just emotional, mental health. Number 4, just the simple things. You know, I, I'll be one. I have a really hard time living in the moment, being present, and not trying to think of the next big thing or fun thing or activity or whatever that is. And so, 2 specific examples. This is super random, but we were in Edinburgh, Scotland, and my daughter really wanted to get her hair cut. I thought it was silly, but she wanted to get her hair cut. So she was getting her hair cut, and the rest of the family was there. And then my son, so I have a 16-year-old son and a 5-year-old son. And we go over to what we think is going to be a park. And it's not really a park at all. It's just open grass area. And we had about an hour or so to kill, and we've got an open grass area. And I'm not exaggerating. The 3 of us played tag in a grass area. And I literally had this moment of like, can it really be this simple? We didn't have, some elaborate game or technology or anything, but it was this moment where all 3 of us are just running and laughing and, tackling each other in the grass. It was just a beautiful moment. And it just made me, like, as I thought about that night, I thought, man, so often the just really, really beautiful moments in life are just simple, and just try and keep it simple and not overcomplicate some of these really simple, beautiful moments. Lesson number 5, just be patient. I think all this, my probably 20 something years of journaling, I probably have written about my impatience thousands of times. And just overall so here was the I guess the specific. It's like, I think as an employer, as an entrepreneur, as a driver, if you will, it's easy to expect everyone to want to run at your pace. And the one night I just had this kind of thought, Like, why am I expecting my kids to push at the pace that I can push or want to push when it's just not physically possible? Whether it's not like, and so I think in a leadership role in a business or in a family situation or relationship situation, sure, we need to push people and people need to be held accountable. But I also think patience is a key virtue to just meeting people where they are. And not everyone can run at the same pace. And I mean, frankly, I wouldn't want to run. I like to run, but I'm a slow runner. I run at a 9-minute mile pace. And so I don't want to run with a guy that wants to run a 6 or 5 minute mile pace. But in a way, don't we do that in our personal lives where we expect people to run at our pace, and if they don't, we're upset with them? Frankly, you chose the wrong running partner, right? If you're expecting them to run at the same pace. Lesson number 6, just gratitude. I've talked a lot about, I think I've written about gratitude and this concept of going big. And really it's being in gratitude. So the transformation of gratitude is going big, is begin in gratitude. And then when you get to the point where you begin every day in gratitude, then it's being in gratitude and living your life in gratitude. And so really, no matter what the day looked like or what had happened, especially in this whole travel pursuit, I'd have a day where I'm like, okay, we need to see these 12 sites. And maybe this is also a kind of a gap in the game thinking. But when you look at, I expected to, go to these 12 sites or these 6 sites, and we only got to these 2 sites or 3 sites, it was easy to get in the gap or just be ingrateful for, the ones we didn't get to, instead of being like, I should be super grateful for what we were able to see and visit and accomplish and experience. So that's lesson 6. And lesson number 7, and I don't have a specific application of how to do this, but I've read a lot and studied a lot around the concept of flow and getting in a state of flow, this effortless pursuit. But I'll tell you kind of where my mind went in this experience. So we went to a symphony, I think it's called a violin quartet. We went to a violin quartet in Saint-Chapelle in France, or in Paris. And I don't think I can, besides going to plays that have symphonies, I don't know that I've ever been to a symphony before. But this violin quartet, as I watched, and maybe it was partly being in this environment that was so gorgeous, but then watching these 4 get in a complete element of flow. And really, what I thought also about was having read the book Boys in the Boat, that tells a story of the rowing team from Washington and I can't remember what Olympics it was, but they get it. So in rowing, they call it swing, this synchrony where literally everyone is on the same page and you have complete synchronization. And swing, they talk about this loyalty and brotherhood that occurs in addition to this effortless rowing, where it's just literally beautiful, streamlined, effortless, like the soaring of a bird. And I watched that with this quartet, and I had this. I'm like, man, in teams, in families, and whatever organizations, trying to find, because I think flow can be a very, as I've studied and learned about flow can occur individually. I mean, they talk about surfers or skydivers or whatever that get into the state of flow, but also they talk about Navy SEALs, and as a team, being able to get into this flow state as a team with complete synchronization. It seems to me that there is the ability as a team, whether it's a leadership team or a family, to get into the state of complete synchronization or flow or swing, if you will. And I saw that with this quartet, and it was really beautiful. It was magical to watch them not communicate in words, but communicate with their eyes and their face, and just the the execution at which they performed was exceptional. So those were my highlights, my top seven life lessons, or I guess, yeah, lessons I learned. And hope you enjoyed this, and find some application, and look for more of these in the future. Cheers.